Greetings, class. So this is going to be just a quick review of this new activity that we have been introducing in the class lately, which is evaluate performances. Being able to listen to someone perform one of the rhythmic exercises that we have been practicing all through this unit, and being able to tell when someone is making a mistake, what kind of mistake is being made, and where exactly, in which part of the exercise did it happen. So let's just go quickly through the presentation that I posted a few days ago. Okay, remember that when you do this activity, when you are reporting how these mistakes took place, what kind of mistakes happened, and where exactly, you have to include 5 different references. Okay, you have to make references to 5 different things. The first of them is what exactly went wrong. Okay, here you have a list of some of the things that normally go wrong in someone performing these exercises. There are many other types of mistakes, but these are the ones that you're going to find most commonly. For example, clapping during a rest. You're not supposed to clap during rests, or not clapping a rhythmic value, or making sudden stops, which is a problem of fluency, making sudden stops in between bars or even in between beats. Wrong coordination of claps and beat count. When you don't coordinate your clapping with the beat count that you keep, that is a problem of rhythmic accuracy. And of course, speeding up or slowing down, which is a problem of tempo. The second thing that you need to report is what rhythmic value was involved. So after you identify what was the mistake, okay, what kind of mistake happened, you have to identify what is the rhythmic value or the different rhythmic values that were involved in that particular mistake. Here you have a chart, just to refresh your minds, with the name of each of the kinds of rhythmic values. How do they look like isolated? How do the rests associated to each of these rhythmic values look like? The beat count, and how do they look like in a 4/4 measure, which is the kind of measure that we have been using in the class so far. Okay, just as a side note, remember that I mentioned this before, we're going to focus only on quarter notes and 8 notes in the class. Okay, so for this particular activity, we're only going to use quarter notes and 8 notes. We're not going to use any of the others. So the third thing that you need to identify is, did it happen on the downbeat or in the upbeat? Whatever mistake that happened here and whatever rhythmic value that is associated with that mistake, you have to identify whether the mistake was made on the downbeat or on the upbeat, and apart from that, also in which beat exactly. So you have to tell if it was on the downbeat or on the upbeat of beat number 1, number 2, number 3, or number 4. And the last thing is being able to tell in which bar did it happen. If it happened in bar number 1, bar number 2, bar number 3, or bar number 4. For example, let's say that someone clapped on this particular exercise something like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I'm pretty sure that you already identified the mistakes. Let me play it again in case you didn't. Pay attention. Try to read along as I play. It goes like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So in this particular case, if you notice, here I made a mistake and here I made another mistake. So once that you know what the mistakes were, then you start reporting it following this pattern that we already covered. So first, what exactly went wrong? Let's see the first mistake over here. What went wrong? Was it that I clapped during the rest? Not really. I didn't clap a rhythmic value. Actually, I clapped an extra rhythmic value. Okay, instead of clapping a quarter note, instead of clapping 2 and, I clapped 2 and. So I changed this from quarter note to 8 note. That is what happens. So you're going to go to your document and you're going to report it in the following way. The person clapped 8 notes instead of quarter notes. For example, that's how you start, okay? Identifying what kind of mistake and the rhythmic values involved. Now, did it happen on the downbeat or in the upbeat? Actually, the mistake was here in the upbeat because I clapped in the upbeat of beat number 2, which I shouldn't have. Okay, so then you continue. The person clapped on the upbeat of which beat? One more time, you have to identify, okay, we said that it was in the upbeat of what beat number? Of beat 1 to beat number 2. In the upbeat of beat number 2, in which bar? In bar number 1. In bar number 1. There you go. That was the first mistake. The second mistake was like this. Here, I clapped over a rest. On bar number 2, I clapped like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So one more time, very simple. What went wrong? Someone clapped during a rest. What kind of rest? During a quarter note rest. Was it in the downbeat or in the upbeat? It was in the downbeat. It's very simple because quarter notes only happen on the downbeat. On one beat number, let's take a look. 1, 2, beat number 3. And in what the bar? In bar number 2. So you write it down. The person clapped during a quarter note rest on beat number 3 in bar number 2. Okay, sorry for the mistakes over here. Let's just correct this. Quarter note. The person clapped during a quarter note rest on beat number 3 in bar number 2. Okay, this is how you report these kinds of mistakes. Now let's talk about other kinds of mistakes. We've seen what happens when you clap a different rhythmic value, what happens when you clap over a rest, that's how it sounds like. But what about the other kinds of mistakes that you see here, like for example sudden stops or wrong coordination or speeding up or speeding down? This is how they sound like, just so you are aware of it. Sudden stops is when you suddenly make a stop here in between the bars or in between the beats, things like this. For example, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, those kinds of mistakes. That is stopping in between bars. Okay, or stopping even in between beats. Like for example, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, that is a problem of fluency. The next one is wrong coordination. When you listen to someone counting the beats, but then the claps don't really happen along with the beat count, that is a problem of rhythmic accuracy. For example, when someone claps like this, let's say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. If you notice, my claps weren't coordinated with my counting. And even here in the 8 notes, it's even worse because I didn't even clap on the 1 and. They went too fast, like 1 and. You see, these are problems of coordination. This is a rhythmic accuracy problem. And finally, this is very easy to catch. Speeding up or speeding down is a problem of tempo. When you listen to people performing like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Notice that I never stopped, okay? The fluency wasn't affected. I continued counting my beats all through, but all during the first half of the exercise, I started going increasingly faster and faster and faster. And then in the second half, it was the opposite. I started going slower and slower and slower every time. So that's basically it. Remember the 5 references, what went wrong, the rhythmic values involved, the downbeat or the upbeat, the beat number, and the bar number. Okay? I hope this is helpful and see you next time.